For over 200 years, the Beijing Opera has thrilled Chinese audiences with its wonderful variety of singing, acrobatics, sword fighting, and colourful costumes and makeup. Opening Shot went to China to look at a day in the life of the Beijing Opera School and watch performances of the students, as well as those of the Beijing Youth Opera Troupe. We also asked Ione Mayer, a young Englishwoman studying at the school, to give us an insight into this fascinating tradition.
The day starts at 6 o'clock for the Beijing Opera School, and the 500 boys and girls will be starting a very long, hard day. They all live and work at the school. It's only on weekends that they'll go home. The girls and boys of the Beijing Opera School are training towards becoming professional actors and actresses in the Beijing Opera Troupe, and they'll be carrying on a tradition which goes back 500 years. The Beijing Opera plays are drawn from Chinese mythology and Chinese history. There's fairy tales, and they're stories of great kings, emperors, warriors, and great female warriors as well. The routine at school is quite tough, and it's important if you're a singer, if singing is the most important part of your performing, to practice your voice. And if you're an acrobat, then you have to limber up and start exercises at 6:30. The day continues at 7:40 with breakfast, and there's rice porridge and steam rolls and pickles, and it's time for filling up because it's a long physical day. From 8 till 10, the girls and boys follow a basic skills course. And for those who are the warrior part, acrobatics. For others, it'll be singing, and for others still, it'll be dancing. Gurney plays the white snake, and she fights with these spears, and in Beijing opera you notice that fighting is symbolic, like the martial arts, but not exactly like the martial arts. They're inspired by martial arts. So these spears are kicked in the air. There's one girl in the center and 4 boys who throw the spears to her. Today, the people that choose to become actors of the Beijing Opera are often children of quite poor families, actually. Today, as they were 100, 200 and 600 years ago. It's a poor family who thinks that their children will benefit from being on stage and maybe becoming a star and maybe getting out of a bad situation. That's one section. And another section of people is the tradition. It belongs to a family and it's handed down from generation to generation. And I think that's what's really wonderful about Beijing Opera, that it's handed down with love and with a lot of time and an immense patience. And the teachers, in some ways, become the parents of the pupils at school.
咚咚晃晃，
呀，
当唱，来来唱，腾，
高
连去，转回去啊，腾，我看，一致性会高，这个节奏，太慢啊，这个节奏，腾走，
仁义礼智信
对
会高，
好，
诗日恭养会唐条。
对，
黄天霸就是为了保护一个，就是说一个官府的一个官儿，他的那个当官的那个人被他的哥哥和他的弟弟给抓走了，所以他夜探那个鄂鲁村。仁义礼智信会高，诗日恭养会唐条。不该贪图林业表之外，显多。两绝交。
Meilanfang plays the acrobatic man warrior. He's inevitably a hero. His singing isn't important, and you'll see in all his movements swift, flowing, and precise quality about them. His teacher, in fact, comes from Shanghai, and his grandfather was famous for playing this part.
对，
那云这八月。
Right from the start, when you go for your exam at the opera school, the teachers look at you physically, listen to you, see if you have a good voice and what kind of voice you have, and they decide what character. If you're a boy and you have a very strong voice and a rather round head, they'll probably decide that you're a painted face, because with a round head it's very easy to paint a face, and it's beautiful. I mean, probably the face is the most beautiful part of the character, and he has to have a very strong bass voice.
咚隆隆隆隆，
大胆地
不啦，
起床。
噔，先撤，噔，巴拉，噔，噔，来，噔，起噔，噔。
就是后天
窦尔敦，
窦尔敦，对，就是哪种性格？
他爸就说跟黄天霸就是说比武，然后呢，黄天霸呢使暗器把那窦尔敦给伤了，所以那窦尔敦呢就是说非常的那个就是恨黄天霸，所以呢所以就去盗御马去。
It's very, very important in Beijing opera that you have huge expressions, very, very wide, open expressions, and that's why the makeup is important. For an actor, will do a series of movements and stop and give the audience a frontal pose with his eyes open very wide. When you come to the theatre, the first thing I think that will strike you are the costumes, because they're colourful, they're large, they flow in an ample kind of way. Lots of them are made with embroidery, very intricate embroidery. And in fact, in Beijing, there are still a couple of factories that make them. These are courtly costumes, which would have been worn actually in the court by important officials, because Beijing Opera was the official court entertainment. So the actors could afford to wear beautiful, really lovely, lovely costumes. In the imperial court, there were many people, so much competition in performing for the emperor. More and more extra skills came into Beijing Opera, and acrobatics was one of these. And the artists would almost kill themselves to try and get an extra skill. So it's very interesting actually here being in the acrobatic training center, because you can still see that same energy going into the training of these young performers. Beijing Opera, it can be divided into two kinds of operas. One we call the martial opera, and one we call the civil opera. The martial opera is where actually they have the most acrobatics and dance, and movement is the most important. The Monkey King is a favorite opera, and Monkey himself, the character, has to perform lots of jumps and leaps, and he uses a stick in a very sort of clever way, and it's spectacular.
对，我选孙悟空。
孙悟空？
我特别喜欢一出戏，就是闹天宫。闹天宫特别喜欢，就是现在年级还不到，没学呢还。这猴子还能72变，知道吗？就是演这猴戏呢，挺难的。
对。
但是还得掌握好多棍花什么的，表演什么的，
对，
都得跟别的什么人物都不一样。所以挺难。我就是想以后分到一个好剧团，然后呢，多唱两出戏。
对，天天能演戏，好多戏是吧？
能唱好多戏。特别是多唱猴子戏。
of the training for the Beijing Opera girls and boys is to perform outside the school, because after all, that's how they gain experience for later life. And they sometimes come to perform at the Gongwanfu Gardens in central Beijing.
有点怎么说？山人自有妙计，你看。
Wang Xin also plays the part of the acrobatic woman. She has to fight a very fierce outlaw who's called Stumpy Tiger. And her nickname, in fact, is 7 Feet of Steel, if you read the translation.
就比较有风度、有气质的那种，
比较
也比较美、比较直爽的那个人物，所以我挺喜欢他。
就说先看看自己，就说有没有发展，要有发展呢，就继续干这个；要没发展，只能就是说再另行其他，
改行了。
对。Beijing Opera is facing a crisis today because it's an old tradition in a fast-developing country. But let's hope the enthusiasm of these to-be Beijing Opera actors will be passed down to the next generation, and the tradition may be continued.
假如说我以后的那个条件要好的话，我呢就是说把京剧，就是说传给下一代。